In the water, toes in the sand. That's the Carolina Panthers right now as vacations loom. Darin Gantt of Panthers.com, he certainly is not soaking in the sun. While his parents are away, he took the keys to Panthers.com and dropped some hot takes. Dan Morgan, we imagine he's in the Bahamas, ordering from a Cabana server, talking about the recent season of Love Island. Hey, so what do you think of Sydney from Jacksonville? What do you think of her? You think she has a chance at winning? I know we're going to beat Jacksonville week 1, but I like this Sydney from Jacksonville character on Love Island. Hey, do you guys serve whey protein? That's Dan Morgan on the beach in the Bahamas. What's going on with the Carolina Panthers? Well, Darin Gantt has been publishing a ton on Panthers.com. And it was almost like he stole his parents' car. They're away, and he took the Mustang for a joyride. Steve in Pembroke, North Carolina, he writes, have we addressed the defense enough, in your opinion? He asks Darin Gantt. To realistically compete with Tampa Bay, have we addressed the defense enough, writes Steve. He asks what additions can be made to improve the secondary this close to training camp. A lot of us, like Steve, have the concern. What's going on with the secondary? What's going on? Especially you have a lot of pundits, these analysts, writing about the Carolina Panthers saying, Nick Scott's the starting safety. One website's talking about Lathan Ransom and Damani Richardson being the starting safeties. No one seems to know who's starting in this defensive backfield. Besides J.C. Horn and Trevon Moehrig, you don't really have a lot of faith in a lot of these other pieces the Panthers have in the secondary. Case in point, people like Steve and me alike, we want the Panthers to add someone to the secondary. Darin Gantt answers, quote, they weren't great at defense last year because they ran out of dudes. That's why. It's per Panthers.com. They weren't great on defense last year because they ran out of dudes, Darin writes. They ran out of dudes. I mean, they definitely ran out of dudes. It was like listening to SoundCloud rap. How about a ooh, 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 wow, but a ooh, kill, 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 kill. Turn it off. Turn it off, 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 off. Please, if anyone was listening, do not judge me. The Carolina Panthers defense was something that you had to turn off when it was on the television last year. You did not want your mother seeing it. But was it because they ran out of dudes, quote unquote? I don't know if I believe in that. I think certainly they were rolling guys out on that defense. I mean, you were concerned that the linebacker had a teardrop tattoo. You're like, who are these people that they're putting out on the field? You have no idea who these people are. So that was part of the issue, and I think they did address that this offseason. They did address bringing in pro-caliber, bona fide starters on defense. Christian Roseboom, Bobby Brown, Tershawn Wharton. You go down the list. These are guys that are legit starters. I didn't group Moehrig in there because I think Moehrig is more of what the Panthers need, which is star power. So now the issue with the defense is not so much, well, we're going to roll out random people that we don't know who they are, that you might have found at Publix, that they might have pulled from a convenience store. And I'm not disrespectful. It's just like you did not know who these people were at the end of the last season going out in the field for the Carolina Panthers. This year, you're going to have bona fide talent, starters, but do you have that star power? Do you have that star power? Who knows? I don't think J.C. Horn, Trevon Moehrig, and you get Derek Brown back, which everyone is very high on the fact the Panthers are getting Derek Brown back. But is that enough? Is that enough star power? I'm not going to say it yet, but Brian Burns looks great in New York right now. I have a buddy. He can't stop talking about Brian Burns. Big hopes for Burns. He had 8.5 sacks last year. He thinks he's going to have a career high this year. We're not going to mention the former edge rusher the Panthers had that would give them star power that signed a big contract in New York. Darin Gantt goes on, signing safety Trevon Moehrig should make the defense better alone, and the fact Derek Brown is getting healthy, along with the aforementioned line depth, That should stabilize this unit. And a lot of people think that when fans like Steve write in to Panthers.com, or people like me go online and scream into a microphone and say they need to sign Julian Blackmon or Jaire Alexander, it's like whoever the flavor of the week is, Justin Simmons, freaking Jalen Ramsey a couple weeks ago, it's like we're literally like high school, we're like prima donnas in high school, just like on the elbow of the next football player every week, just walking around. We're prima donna. Hey, Randy, I'm single. And then the next day we come in, hitching elbows with the linebacker. He has a bad game. We're like, hey, Steve, you can throw a tight spiral. And we're just constantly just pursuing these. It's almost like a pipe dream. Jalen Ramsey, Jaire Alexander. Now we're on to Justin Simmons, Rasul Douglas. And it's just going to keep going on and on and on and on. And people think we're being ungrateful. They're like, well, you just don't think Nick Scourton is going to be a 12-stack player. And you just don't have faith in these rookies. And Lathan Ransom, the 4th-round pick, is a superstar already. Just be grateful for what we have. And these people get upset. But I think it is fair to ask, have they done enough to be competitive? Have the Panthers done enough to be competitive? That is what should get you to fall asleep at night. If the answer to that question is yes, you'll be sweaty rolling around until 2 a.m. watching Squid Game like me last night if the answer is no to that question. But being middle of the pack is what this unit is seeking. I said it, I think, 2 weeks ago. If they're 22nd in the league or higher, which that's what they were in 2023, the defense wasn't great in 2023, but it was enough. It was enough to get by. If they can do that, that's a great start. I'm optimistic about this offense. Darin Gantt is not as optimistic as I am. We're going to go more into that. But I think this offense is good enough where if the defense is middle of the pack is a reach, but if you're like 22nd in the league, I think 9 wins is on the table. I think Bryce Young, Umanmielen, the unit on offense, they can figure it out. They can win games if you're giving up what the league average was in points per game, which is 23. I think even if it's more like 25, you're okay with Bryce Young. I trust that team to play well on offense. Are they going to be able to do that? I don't know. I don't know. Derek Brown is going to help. They're going to be able to stop the run for sure. It helps getting DB back, but they need star power. You're not confident at all in what they have at safety. We're going to go more into what they're going to do at safety, and it seems like it's going to be nothing. It seems like this is a team that's content just waiting and waiting and waiting and seeing how the offseason unfolds. God forbid, they pay a guy a little more money than they should. God forbid they give Jaire Alexander $5 or $6 million guaranteed, or they overstep a little bit because they need to. Otherwise, these guys are magnets. They're going to go and radiate towards playoff teams. Of course they want to play for Baltimore. Of course I want to play for Kansas City. I don't want to go to Carolina. Of course. I want to win a Super Bowl with Pat Mahomes. And the Panthers are not good enough to sell playoff hopes to these guys. They're going to have to overpay if they truly want one of these players. We'll go more into that on the latter half of this segment, because I don't want to get too distracted. I can just go on and on and on about the free agents. I could go on and on and on about that. So Darin Gantt writes, but they weren't going to be able to fix all the problems in one offseason. If the offense continues to click and the defense gets itself together step by step, that's the measure of success. Getting it together step by step. Am I dehydrated? Am I losing my mind? I want playoffs. I cannot deal with another season of this team not making the playoffs. I want to be entertained during the NFL playoffs. I do not want to be watching trash reality television. I don't want to be watching Love Island while other good teams play in the playoffs, listening to Brits shame each other. What? You gonna bring another guy behind the telly? At least let me have Mike. Mike's 5'2", you're 6'1", Sydney. What you doing with him? What you gonna do? Package him up? What you gonna do, Sydney? Stand there and let him dunk over you like he's Nate Robinson? Is that what you're gonna do? This is what happens. This is what happens when the Panthers don't play competitive football late in the winter. This is what happens. We all end up zoning out, waiting for the draft, waiting for April. Going into hibernation, I don't know. It's going into hibernation is a reasonable alternative during the NFL playoffs if you're a Panthers fan. And like this person who writes into Panthers.com, is this heat wave dehydration the reason I'm starting to believe we are going to win the division this year? That's how a lot of us are feeling. We're hoping we're not like losing our minds, going insane. We're hoping that's not what this is. It's not delusion. We're hoping the Panthers can be in the playoffs, but Panthers.com throws a blanket on that fire. Panthers.com says they weren't going to be able to fix all the problems in one offseason, and this is a step-by-step process, which I get somewhat. Like Fitterer and Matt Rule and the guys that are no longer here anymore, and like every good organization, what you have to do is point the finger at the previous regime. They're not here anymore. You can blame all the viruses on our computer on those people that used to work here. It's not us. All the problems are those people that used to be here. They're no longer here. They're gone. They work for freaking whoever. Nebraska. We don't even know where they are, but they're no longer here, and they're the reason for our problems. So you have to do a little bit of that. Everyone's naturally going to do that. But I think we were expecting things to move a little bit faster. And I honestly think, like many others, the Panthers didn't have to go and spend $284 million on the first day of free agency like the New England Patriots did. But you don't have to settle. You don't have to settle on not having a safety outside of Trevon Moehrig that you're comfortable with. You don't have to settle in the secondary. You don't have to tout Mike Jackson Sr. as some sort of superstar corner that we know he's not. You don't have to sell us that cutting Jadeveon Clowney was due to being strategic with money, and it's like had nothing to do with the fact that he maybe didn't jive with the locker room. You don't have to sell us on these things, and you don't have to settle. But Darin Gantt does hint at the next possible addition. He names two players. The spot they're thinnest at is safety. The good news is there's multiple qualified guys at that spot, writes Gantt, including Julian Blackmon, who visited in March. Known commodity, Justin Simmons, who, if you were listening to the tone, was an all-pro for Ojiro Overo in 2022, had a career-high 6 interceptions. It's a lot. And there's still more guys on the market. And I find this last sentence really interesting. They spent the spring looking at young options there, but could stand to be more experienced and deeper. And I think this is an insight into the Panthers. This is a window into the world. I said it multiple times at this point. Darin Gantt was given the keys to the Mustang. His parents, they're in the Bahamas on vacation, have a great summer, come back in late July. Darin Gantt, he's working like a dog. And he took the car to the Mustang, and he gave us a window into the world of the Carolina Panthers when he writes, they spent the spring looking at young options there in the secondary, but could stand to be more experienced and deeper. What he's describing is the Panthers aren't rushing to sign anyone. They have no urgency. The urgency that the tone has, the urgency that many of you have, which is sign someone and sign them now. 1-800, we need secondary, sign now with the Carolina Panthers. That's not shared by the team. They're willing to just let this pan out. Let's see how some of these guys do. Let's look at these young options. I think he's referring to Ransom, Charles Smith-Wade, Damani Richardson, undrafted free agent from 2024, who could be a starting safety. That's who he's referring to. Let's see what we have there. And then we get halfway through training camp. We get to the preseason. One of these guys is getting torched. Well, then we'll pick up the phone and Justin Simmons will be there. And maybe if he isn't, well, Jordan Whitehead will be there. Or freaking whoever. Some veteran safety will still be available. It's guaranteed. There's so many guys in the market. So many veteran secondary players. And they're willing to just let it all play out. We'll get a guy on a veteran minimum contract. We'll show you. We won't have to pay like Baltimore. Baltimore's dumb. Baltimore's dumb for paying Jaire Alexander $4 million guaranteed. We're so much smarter than them. That's what it's going to be. And look, I don't care about the money. Just get somebody, because what you have is not enough in the secondary. And I think most people feel the same way. Xavier Legette, he is training with Route God. And at first I was like, oh gosh. So we're a couple weeks removed from the Glorilla music video. Xavier Legette has been in front of the spotlight, and I'm like, now he's hanging out with one of these athlete influencers. You know, like one of these guys that should be in the league. You don't know how they're not in the NFL. They're like, I'm going to kick a 92-yard field goal and give $10,000 to one of you. And he just like right through the uprights, or runs these like seamless perfect routes, or is like covering Justin Jefferson one-on-one. And you're like, why aren't you just in the league? They're like, well, I can't hit the whoa. I can't do my TikTok dance and post content while I'm playing football on Sunday. That's why I'm not in the league. So I thought it was one of these people. And I was like, oh my gosh, Xavier. Like, he's from Mullen, South Carolina. He's got the heart of just like the nicest, like just soothing country guy. Just seems like a very good dude. And I'm like, someone needs to talk to him before he starts hanging out with these influencers who just do not care about him at all, just want to soak him for every dollar he's worth. And as soon as he's not in the spotlight, they'll ghost him. So Route God isn't that. Route God's actually the man. And check out his channel. The video he did with Xavier Legette, link in the description, is amazing. So Route God is a businessman. I don't know his football experience, but he runs really good routes. I mean, he's in the video with Xavier Legette. You're like, oh my gosh, he should be in the NFL. And he's teaching, coaching Legette with the routes. He's coached guys like Deontay Johnson. He's coached James Cook, the running back for Buffalo. And then also some Washington Huskies. Jalen Umanmielen, the guy from Tampa, along with Rome Odunze and Jalen Polk. Ugh. So hopefully Xavier Legette is a little better than all of those guys, because it's like the repertoire isn't great. I believe his name is James Effort Jr., known as Route God. You don't want Xavier Legette to end up like Deontay Johnson or Rome Odunze or Jalen Polk, certainly. Oh my gosh. New England might have an aneurysm if they're listening to this. But needless to say, Xavier Legette continuing to put in work. He looks impressive in the videos. The videos are circulating. They're going viral. Clips from Route God's training session with Xavier Legette. But like most people watching it, the hands are the issue. It's not the routes. And a lot of people in the comments are like, oh my gosh, the routes are so crisp. And I totally agree. He moves so fluidly, Xavier Legette. But it's the hands. Do the hands improve in 2025? And Legette is reliving that moment in Philadelphia. He said it a number of times. That's been the low point in his character arc. Is that drop late in the game against Philadelphia that could have gave the Panthers the win over the Eagles, Super Bowl champion Eagles. But Legette did drop the ball. It was a tough catch in hindsight, but he dropped the ball. And that was his growth point. The low point in his story was that. So we hope Legette continues to train. He seems to be training hard. We don't know how much the hands have improved. We won't know until week 1. And the development right now is, well, how much is this guy training with Bryce Young? Bryce Young probably, I believe per Jatavian Sanders, is going to be training with guys in Los Angeles. So Bryce Young plans on training with some of the Panthers in Los Angeles. Adam Thielen is probably in Minnesota at St. Joseph's Cathedral in St. Paul. Like, it's just like, he's probably in the north, bundled up, running routes up there. But some of these other guys, especially Legette, McMillan, the more reps they can get with the quarterback, the better. We will see how things unfold with the second-year wide receiver who needs to take a step up. It's do or die for Xavier Legette. And the work ethic, you can't knock him. You can't knock the work ethic. But the limelight, I don't know. You can question that. Is it a good thing to constantly be in the limelight if you're a wide receiver who is boom or bust in year 2? Dean Jones, Cat Crave, he writes, 4 Panthers who could be shocking cuts if training camp turns ugly. A'Shawn Robinson's on the list, and many might be surprised. It was a player the Panthers invested a significant amount of money into last offseason. Had an impressive year in 2024. I don't think A'Shawn Robinson by any means was the problem. People are upset his run stopping wasn't as great as it was touted to be. Previously a player who was great against the run for Ejiro Evero. Evero can't get enough of his former players in the Panthers locker room. But that did not translate into Carolina. He did tie for the team lead in sacks. A'Shawn Robinson had 5.5 sacks, I believe. Don't quote me on that exactly. But it was tied for the team lead with Jadeveon Clowney. But now he could be on the way out, especially if some of these other guys impress, like Tershawn Wharton, Bobby Brown, Cam Jackson. All guys that could potentially displace A'Shawn Robinson. They do run the 3-4. A'Shawn Robinson is versatile. Probably play 3 different positions. So maybe you do keep him. Even though you are loaded up inside, you have Bobby Brown, Tershawn Wharton, Derek Brown coming back. A'Shawn Robinson, where does he fit in? He could be a shocking cut candidate, and I find that something that is reflected elsewhere. It's not just Cat Crave reporting this. Panthers.com not explicitly saying it, but there's a lot to be impressed with in terms of the depth they have on the interior defensive line. I find it interesting if this guy actually is on the chopping block. Because why did you sign Tershawn Wharton? You had a decent pass rushing interior defensive lineman. Like, couldn't you have allocated the money elsewhere? There's questions that arise if you're actually planning on cutting A'Shawn Robinson. Maybe he improves against the run. That's, I think, the gold standard. Wharton gives you elite pass rushing abilities. At least that's what you think he'll give you. Combine that with Derek Brown's versatility, and then A'Shawn Robinson steps up against the run. Great insurance policy. I think they should be doing that at other positions. They should have players like A'Shawn Robinson, bona fide pros who you're comfortable with at safety, at corner. And they don't have that currently. Even linebacker. Although Roseboom and Josie Jewell and Trevin Wallace, decent unit. No star power, but decent unit. Well, that's it for this segment. It's the slow, sunny offseason. I hope you're having an amazing vacation, spending time with your family, as you should be. Maybe taking a break to listen to the tone on your morning commute. That's awesome. Pairing the tone with coffee is the number one cure to anxiety, I'm telling you. Pair the tone with anxiety. Hopefully the tone doesn't give you anxiety. Well, it shouldn't. And we have so much more coming for you. I'm producing new content for the start of training camp. I spent like all weekend working on graphics, and it's like, dude, like my hand, I'm not kidding, I'm like arthritic in my hand. Like I can't even like move it. I'm like, oh, I feel like Darth Sidious. Like my skin's gonna all like frail in, and I'm like, like it's just not great to be me right now. But because of that, we're gonna have some amazing content The Tone's going to take the world over. You're listening to The Tone because you, like me, are unplugged from the Carolina Panthers matrix. This is The Tone. Go jump in the water. Go get a hot dog. Happy 4th.